The Super Bowl is just a few days away, and we're continuing our coverage of breaking down the matchup, and now we're shifting our focus to the tight ends. I'm Sierra Goodwill here with Evan Lazar. We've got George Kittle and Travis Kelce, two dominant players at their position. Really impressive all around. Who do you think is going to have the bigger game, and who do you think is the better player?
Well, I think it's an interesting question of who's the better player because it's two very different styles. It's kind of the same discussion we had when Gronk would go up against Travis Kelce, obviously not going head-to-head against one another on the field, but you get the point. And I think the biggest thing with Kelce is Patriots fans don't like to give him credit at all for being any type of good blocker. I don't think Kelce is a great blocker, but I think he's better than Patriots fans give him credit for in that regard. But as a receiver, he is probably the most complete receiver of any tight end in the league right now, and maybe any tight end ever. He really runs an expansive route tree. Bill Belichick earlier this year actually talked about this in a press conference, saying that he runs every route in the book, which is unique for a tight end because most tight ends have 4 or 5 different types of patterns that they go about running, and Kelce can run everything. He can run it from various alignments, tight end, in line, put his hand in the ground. He can then flex outside. He can play in the slot. So he's the most complete receiving tight end that I have ever seen in the sport. Now, George Kittle, on the other hand, though, he is a lot more like Gronk, right? He's kind of your do-it-all tight end. He is a dominant run blocker. He's probably the best run-blocking tight end in the league since Gronk. You know, take Gronk out of the equation this decade, and George Kittle is going to be number 2 right there. But don't sleep on him as a receiver. He's not the same type of receiver as Kelce, but he's more of that physical presence, and he's fantastic after the catch, and he just runs people over in the open field and uses that power, translates to him as a ball carrier as well. So both really good tight ends, different tight ends, probably the best tight end matchup in Super Bowl history statistically, though.
And let's throw Gronk in the mix. We've heard a little bit from Rob Gronkowski recently. He's down in Miami around the Super Bowl buzz. He talked about how he's still young. He's not going to rule out a return to football, but he loves where he's at right now. So we're not going to talk about that. But in terms of looking at Kittle and Kelce, are either of them as complete of a player as Gronk was when you take into consideration his blocking ability, his hands, his ability to create separation, all of that?
No. Not even close. You're not going to hold Rob Gronkowski's jock on this one. Listen, I think the biggest thing is that Kelce is not that complete guy, right? He's a decent run blocker, like I said. He's not as bad as people make it out to be, but he's a far ways away from what Gronk is. Now, Kittle is better in that regard, but I don't think that Kittle was as dominant of a matchup nightmare, and it's partially the scheme of how they use the tight end in Kyle Shanahan's offense. They're not asking him to go win one-on-one on the outside as often as they used Gronk. They are not asking him to make as many explosive plays down the field in the passing game because that's not really their system right now. But at the same time, I really think that Gronkowski is the best tight end of all time, is better than both of these guys just because of that complete aspect of his game and the ability to win route running in all levels and all different alignments on the field.
Well, we're just a few days away from the big game, but there's still plenty of time to get in on the action. Head to betonline.ag. Use our promo code CLNS50 for your 50% welcome offer. Bring the playoffs home with our exclusive offer with betonline.ag. For all the rest of our Patriots offseason coverage and Super Bowl preview, head to our website at clnsmedia.com and subscribe to our YouTube channel at CLNS Media.